Let me guess, you're moving to the Charlotte, North Carolina area, maybe even considering South Carolina, but you've heard of this little town called Mint Hill. Well, guess what? You have come to the right video today. I'm going to dive in and give you the pros and the cons about the town of Mint Hill and why it may or may not be the best place for your family to settle down. Now, if you're looking for everything Charlotte, North Carolina and South Carolina, the good, the bad, the ins, the outs, everything in between, go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel so you can stay up to date on everything you didn't know you needed to know. In addition to that, if you want to get notifications as I post videos, hit that little notification button and I'll be sure to keep you in the loop. Now, I truly do get calls, texts, emails, Zoom invites every single day from people just like you moving to the Charlotte, North Carolina area. So if that is you, go ahead and drop down below. All of my information is in the description, whether you're moving 9 days or 90 days from now, or if you're moving across the world, across the country, or just across town. We're here to make your move exactly what you want it to be. So let's dive into Mint Hill. Mint Hill is such a sweet little town. It's located just to the southeast of Charlotte. And yes, it is inside of the Beltline of 485, but no, it is not Charlotte. There are only 3 towns that are inside or near the Charlotte 485 Beltline that are not Charlotte, and that's Matthews, Mint Hill, and a little bit of Pineville. Now, diving into Mint Hill, the reason why I love it, it's a bit of a sister city or a sister town, in my personal opinion, to Matthews. You've got a lot of the same homes, similar pricing, but one thing about Mint Hill, it's actually a little bit more green, a little bit more spread out, meaning larger lot sizes, and its downtown is just as cute. So let's dive into some of the pros and cons of Mint Hill and things you should consider before you make the move. Now, as always, I like to start with the positive. So let's talk a little bit about the economy. Mint Hill has a booming economy and it has continued to grow over the last several years. In fact, if we're talking about unemployment, it sits at 3.5%. Meanwhile, the rest of the US is sitting at 6%. So that's some great numbers. In addition to that, even over the last year, jobs have increased over 2.7%. Now, that sounds small, but if we're looking at what's going on across the nation, this is actually a significant growth because these jobs are long-term hold, not just short-term or part-time jobs. So that's quite a bit of growth. Now, here's the cool part. What is expected or projected over the next 10 years is that the economy and job market is actually going to grow by 46.9%. Meanwhile, the expectation for the national average is at 33%. So Mint Hill is outpacing the US average in, I would say, pretty big numbers. Now, that being said, if you're moving to the Mint Hill area, you need to understand you're very close to Charlotte. So these are just Mint Hill numbers. But if you are working outside of Mint Hill, which is very easy to do, the numbers for Charlotte are even higher. So you're moving into a very strong economy. So let's talk about one of the cons of Mint Hill. Like many growing cities in the United States, the cost of living is a little bit higher than the US average. Now, it's not so much that it's gonna break the bank, cough, cough, California, New York, but it is just so much that maybe if you were outside of the 485 belt or a little bit further anywhere outside of Charlotte, it would drop a little bit. Let's talk about the numbers specifically. So if we're talking about rentals and you're looking to rent a home, a 3-bedroom home in the Mint Hill area is actually lower than the US average at $1,700 over $1,800, which is the US average. Now, even though rents are a little bit lower, the house prices sit a little bit higher. The average price point for a house in Mint Hill is at $464,000. Meanwhile, the US average is at $336,000. Now, bear in mind, Mint Hill sits inside of the 485 Beltline as a part of Charlotte. No, it's not in Charlotte, the city, but it is a part of Charlotte and is seen as such, meaning it's pulling a lot of their prices from Charlotte, from Matthews, from Indian Trail and the surrounding areas. Now, if you were to go farther east, west, north, way further outside of the city, those prices are going to drop. It's about proximity, and Mint Hill is in the perfect location when it comes to proximity to the city, as well as the airport and many other areas. So when we're looking at the prices, yes, it's higher than the US average, but still substantially lower than many of the other major US cities, such as Miami, Dallas, Atlanta, New York. You get the idea. Now, if we're looking at the actual numbers on cost of living in the US average is 100. We're using that as a benchmark. Mint Hill sits at 102.5. So like I said, not that much over what the actual averages are for the US, but it's still, if we're looking at a comparison, groceries, healthcare are a little bit higher than the rest of the country, and that's usually what pushes it up just a little bit more. The other part that's a little bit higher is going to be, of course, housing prices. So the housing prices being a little bit higher, that is something that always pushes cost of living to look a little bit higher when it comes to the average on the US versus the town. So Mint Hill higher, yes, but still affordable. So let's talk another positive. Salaries. Now, I do know, depending upon the company, the business, the industry, salaries and income are always going to vary. However, Mint Hill has some pretty good averages. Average salary in Mint Hill is going to be about $40,000, while the US average sits at $37,000. In addition to that, here's something a little bit more substantial. The median household income in Mint Hill is $84,000. Meanwhile, the rest of the US average sits at $69,000. Now, the nice thing about $84,000 being the median, even though Mint Hill sits just slightly higher on cost of living, that $84,000 actually is far more than you would need to make up for that cost of living, making it a more profitable place to live. So let's talk about another bad part, all right? Crime. It happens everywhere. Let's talk about it. Now, if we're looking at crime rates, 1 being the lowest, 100 being the highest, Mint Hill sits at 13.8. Meanwhile, the rest of the US is at 22.7. So less violent crime. If we're looking at property crime, Mint Hill actually sits at 29.7, while the rest of the country average is 35.4. So substantially lower, which makes it a much safer place to live on a US average standpoint. In addition to that, if we're looking at averages, Mint Hill actually sits at 6% safer than the average in the US. So is it a safe place to live? Absolutely, and some of the neighborhoods are absolutely stunning. Let's tap briefly into education. While the school system has highly rated public schools, they also offer private schools very close nearby, within about a 15-minute drive. So your children have plenty of opportunity for education. Now, if we're looking at the population and the educated population in that area, 94.1% have graduated high school and over 39% have a 4-year college degree. Now, if you've watched my channel for any number of times, you would understand that I don't hold that too highly when it comes to a 4-year degree, because there are so many incredible trade schools, and I know some really great people who are doing very well without any degree at all. But it is nice to know what the demographics are when it comes to the educated population in that area. My primary focus, though, the schools are fantastic. So let's talk about another con, population growth. This is expected with any major city, and well, Mint Hill being just in the throes of Charlotte, this is not at all surprising. Now, the challenge with this is because it's starting to push home values up, just pushing people out. Now, mind you, just because a house's value goes up doesn't mean someone has to leave their home. They still have a mortgage, they can stay where they are. However, when someone does sell their home, the next person in is going to pay a higher price than the original owner did, or the prior owner, meaning less and less individuals, perhaps of the median income, are going to be able to afford Mint Hill in the coming years, which means they're being pushed further and further out, meaning further away from Charlotte, where the prices are a little bit lower. Now, this isn't a bad thing. This happens in every city, in every area of the country, around the world, but it's a good thing to understand, especially coming into this market. In addition to this, of course, you're also going to have traffic increases as the population grows. Now, Mint Hill hasn't seen as severe traffic as some other areas of Charlotte that have bottlenecked. By the way, nothing compared to Atlanta, New York, and LA. This is a cakewalk. We're talking a few minutes slowdown. But for those who have been here for quite some time, this can be a bit of a headache. So it's something to note, but here's the cool thing. Charlotte and the surrounding areas, including Mint Hill and Matthews, are working together to improve upon the infrastructure to make sure that those roads keep getting expanded and we keep getting opportunity to build. Now, I will say, even though things are expanding, it still has a smaller population density than Charlotte, meaning there are fewer people per square mile. This is an advantage, even though it's a disadvantage because it's growing, right? But the nice thing is there's still a nice spread out feel in the Mint Hill area. You wouldn't know you're just 15 minutes from downtown Charlotte. Now we're gonna end this with my final pro, the good thing, right? And we're gonna talk about the availability of homes and sprawl. Now I just said that was a negative, but let's talk about why it's a positive. Now this town is a part of Mecklenburg County, and it does sit inside the 485 belt, which makes it much easier to get to. In addition to that, the home availability matches that of Charlotte, meaning yes, there are homes that are consistently being built, but here's the cool thing. As the demand continues to increase, builders are encouraged to keep building, which is not only improving the availability of homes inside of the Mint Hill area, but also just outside of, so people have a place to go, opening up the opportunity to more homes on a daily basis. While the median price is $464,000, we've seen an immense uptick in the equity of these properties. Appreciation of these homes over the last 10 years has been over 161%. I'll say that again. 161%, with appreciation up 23.7 in just the last few years. In addition to that, most of the homes in the area, the average age is about 29 years old, meaning there are some newer homes, but there are some beautiful homes that have been improved. So is Mint Hill a great spot? Personally, I think it might be one of the most ideal places and locations in the 485 belt to raise a family, for you to live on your own, or just to enjoy what is around you. Beautiful parks, availability to multiple interstates, easy access into Charlotte and out of, and so much more. So let me know what you think. Do you still have questions? Drop them in the comments below. I want to hear from you. And I hope that this was educational and answered some of your questions. But if you've got more, stay tuned to this channel. Be sure to like and subscribe and stay up to date on everything that I'm posting about Charlotte, North Carolina. And like I said, I really do get calls, texts, and emails from people just like you looking to move to the Charlotte, North Carolina area. So if that's you, whether it's 9 days or 90 days from now, whether you're moving across the world, across the country, or just across town, be sure to reach out, text, email, send me a Zoom invite. All of my contact information is in the description below. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I look forward to showing you around town. So you're making the move. There's a lot of videos that you can be watching, like this one right here, or maybe even this one. Really either one of these, but honestly, watch both of them because they're gonna help you make the move. Go ahead, pick one. They're both really good.